I think folks in government are increasingly becoming aware of just how transformative AI will be for every sector of the economy and starting to prioritize AI in national security policy making conversations and economic policy making conversations is no longer just limited to sort of the technology vertical. I think one of the challenges has been that we haven't always gotten it right as we've been rolling out these models in different workplaces. I'm Elizabeth Kelly, and I'm the former inaugural director of the U.S. AI Safety Institute. The U.S. AI Safety Institute is the tip of the spear for the U.S. government in terms of understanding the risks and capabilities of advanced AI models. Over the last year, we've essentially created a startup inside the federal government that brings together tremendous expertise from Google, Meta, OpenAI, Anthropic, leading research institutions like Harvard, and pairs them with experts in different national security and public safety domains like ChemBio and cyber. And what we're tasked with doing with the AI Safety Institute is working with industry, with civil society, with academia to understand the capabilities of the most powerful models that are being released, and to understand the risk these models could pose to public safety and national security. We're incredibly excited about the innovation that we anticipate seeing and that we're already seeing, but we know that these are dual-use models, and that just as you could use an advanced AI model for new drug discovery and development, it could also be used for creation of novel pathogens. It can enable really important cyber defense, but could also enable more dangerous offensive cyber attacks by a broader range of actors. And so the work that we're doing at the Safety Institute is really around testing and evaluation to understand the risks these models could pose and work with developers to mitigate those risks. So I think it's important to note that we are not, in fact, a regulator. The US AI Safety Institute is located at NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, which has a 100+ year tradition of really working with industry on joint evaluations in a collaborative manner. And because of our posture as non-regulators, we're able to work in a more voluntary, collaborative way with the AI developers to really bring to bear the tremendous expertise in national security that exists across the US government, working with places like the National Institute of Health, the Department of Defense, the Department of Energy, and helping labs that have the technical expertise understand what the national security risk could be from their models and how to mitigate that, as well as using what we learn from the labs to inform the broader national security apparatus of the US government. I think what is clear is the pace of AI development is moving so quickly. Just look at what's happened in the last couple of months. We've had really powerful open source models come out of other countries. We've seen major releases from Grok, from Anthropic, from OpenAI, new reasoning models that are enabling tasks that were previously not possible for AI models. And so I think CEOs are right to be prioritizing the adoption of AI across their enterprises. But I think there's a lot of work to be done in terms of thinking strategically about how you should be using AI in the workplace. There's been a rush to say on earnings calls, we're using AI, even if it's not necessarily the tool that's fit for purpose, or it's a relatively less meaningful use case. And so I think it really requires a thoughtful approach across the business, looking at every different vertical before they deploy these tools. So if you look at different sectors, we see places like financial services where there are relatively high rates of adoption. About 90% is what being reported. We're also seeing high adoption in the retail sector, a little bit lower in healthcare, but still meaningful, while sectors like manufacturing tend to lag behind. But across all of these sectors, I think we're really just scratching the surface in terms of what AI can do. For example, using AI for chatbots or for note-taking or relatively more basic functions, rather than really starting to automate decision making, improve writing, all of the things that we know it can do. And so I'm excited to see what happens in each of these industries as we start to take advantage of the more mature use cases, especially those that can happen with the reasoning models. But there's a lot of work that has to be done to get there. I think one of the challenges has been that we haven't always gotten it right as we've been rolling out these models in different workplaces. For example, you hear workers report that they're being told by AI to give certain answers to customers who call in. And if they actually read the answer that was given, it would make the customers very angry indeed. Or housekeeping workers who might be told to clean rooms in a certain order based off of checkout times as suggested by the AI. But that doesn't actually make sense if you have to go from the 4th floor to the 7th and then back to the 5th. And so making sure that workers are at the table and informing the way that AI is being deployed in the workplace, I think will actually lead to happier workers who are using these tools more, as well as greater gains for the enterprise. So part of the work that was done at NIST was the creation of the AI risk management framework, which is being used by businesses worldwide as they're thinking about how they deploy these tools. And we're seeing a number of other voluntary standards pop up as well. It was a lot of the work that we did at the AI Safety Institute in terms of how do you help developers think about mitigating the risks to public safety and national security from these models. It's also worth noting there's a lot of laws already on the books that apply to AI use cases. If I'm using AI in making a decision about lending or about hiring, there are already existing laws that apply. And so a lot of what has happened is just sort of issuing new guidance, updating these existing regulations to be fit for purpose in this new era of AI. Whether or not we see legislation, I think that's an open question in the US. I certainly anticipate we'll see more state-level legislation. We've seen action in Colorado, Connecticut, California, and anticipate more in the year to come. And there's also legislation happening in other countries. Obviously, the EU AI Act has gotten a lot of press, both for its transparency requirements for the underlying foundation models, as well as for the requirements and restrictions it put in place, especially around high-risk use cases of AI, for example, in lending, hiring, or housing decisions. So we are still very much in the first or second inning of AI. We're starting to see AI being rolled out in workplaces, but more in a way that is augmenting as opposed to displacing workers. So providing a tool they can use in coding or assisting with drafting of emails or basic research tasks. I think a lot of people anticipate that over the next couple of years, we'll see a shift from augmentation to displacement, where it's actually meaning that firms are not hiring new workers to replace those who leave, or actually laying off particularly vulnerable occupations like software engineers, translators, graphic designers, places where we know AI can perform a lot of these tasks. I think economists disagree at what pace this will take place. In past technological transformations, it's been slower than you might think, and there's typically been new jobs that are created by the technology that led to the displacement of others. We don't know what's going to happen here. I think AI is a really unique technology just because the sheer range of tasks it can do, and the fact that a lot of the tasks it's automating are jobs being done by white-collar workers who have been more insulated from some of the prior transitions. I would just emphasize how important it is for the US government to really have technical talent around AI as we enter sort of this new era. I think it's important not only from how do we work with companies, bring the expertise of the government to bear from a national security, public safety perspective, but it's also important as we think about how can the government use AI to better serve American citizens at lower cost. Veterans Affairs, Social Security Administration, IRS are actually using these tools in a meaningful way because I think that's where we'll see a lot of the improvement in people's lives as well as greater efficiency for the government. I think it's going to fundamentally transform how we do business, how workers operate, what our economy looks like. And I think that that transition is going to have a lot of pain points. We're going to need to make sure that we have workers at the table, that we have protections in place for data and privacy, that we are putting in place defenses against cyber attacks or fraud that could be enabled by AI. And I'm excited to see what that transition looks like. I think folks in government are increasingly becoming aware of just how transformative AI will be for every sector of the economy, and starting to prioritize AI in national security policy making conversations and economic policy making conversations. Is no longer just limited to sort of the technology vertical. But I think it has so many dimensions in this change that there's still a lot of learning to be done, and it's why it's going to be so important to have real technical experts in government who can inform those who have expertise in these different domains. I don't think that there is a tension between safety and innovation. I think that companies have an incentive to get this right. They want to prevent the worst harms from AI. For example, a cyber attack that could be destabilizing for large swaths of the economy. And so there's real room for government-industry partnership to make sure that you're identifying and mitigating those risks so that we can see safety enable trust, which enables adoption, which enables innovation. And enabling that innovation is very much the North Star of the Safety Institute from its beginning.